everyone, my name is Kiara Pomeroy, and this is my creative critical reflection for the short film Obscura. On surface level, Obscura follows a teenage girl who goes out one night and falls in love with someone she believes to be the one to cure her loneliness. On a deeper level, Obscura represents society's false perception or constant illusion of love and falling in love through a character who has experienced so much abandonment and pain that this false idea has become her only escape. The film opens on our main character waking up to the sound of heels right outside her bedroom, her mother leaving her again for the night without a kiss or a goodbye, telling us right off the bat that our character might not have a close relationship with her and experiences disconnection within her own home, among her own family. I really wanted to incorporate the idea of her not being close to her family to really emphasize the extremity of her loneliness throughout the film. She then gets ready to leave for the night, changing her clothes, removing her makeup from the other day, and applying more. This routine of her mother leaving and the character sneaking out after she's gone is implied to be reoccurring, which relates back to the title and essence of the film. I originally wanted to title the film Night because the film not only takes place over the course of one night, but also darkness and shadows are reoccurring themes throughout. Night is also a reoccurring part of nature, which I thought would have added interesting duality to the meaning of the title because of the character's continuous search for love. In the end, I chose to go with the title Obscura, meaning to be indistinct, dark, and obscure, because it symbolizes mystery found in the dark and in the shadows, adding an air of mystery, which I think fits the tone of my film well. I think my film follows the conventions of its genre, art house, because of its focus on dreams, thoughts, and motivations of the characters, rather than to be driven by a clear, defined plot or goal. The entire film follows the main character's desperate desire to connect with someone else, that it drives her to go out every night to surround herself with people, invite a stranger over to her house, and do everything she thinks people who are in love should do, such as cook for each other and go out on dates. I think this goes back to the idea of how we're brainwashed about how we're supposed to fall in love from a very young age. You randomly bump into someone, you look into each other's eyes, and then bam, you're in love. And that's exactly what happens to this character in the film. She bumps into someone at a bookstore, asks them on a date, essentially, and thinks that that's all there is to it, which isn't the truth at all. And this character's exaggerated following of this notion is meant to symbolize just how odd this idea is in our own society. The film also highlights the fact that everyone feels lonely at some point in their life, and that while you may feel empty with loneliness, the fact that you are with someone doesn't necessarily fill you up inside, which is alluded to when the main character finally appears happy in the end in the arms of the boy, but it is unclear whether or not that is really happening, making her happiness actually a bit depressing. That final scene actually ties back to another convention of art house I followed, which is to be much more experimental than the conventional film. The ending especially exemplifies the experimental nature of Obscura because the disappearance and reappearance of the love interest is extremely surreal and makes audiences question everything they saw before. The slow dancing in the last shot to the eerie old tune adds to this feeling of surrealism, and the fact that the two are shot together on equal ground when they were previously shot facing each other on opposite sides furthers the idea that in this version of reality they are finally together, and she is finally happy, which is all very weird and experimental, if you ask me. My use of black and white is also typical of an art house film, because these films tend to be suited for smaller audiences, aka smaller budgets, and it is much cheaper to work with black and white rather than with color. Black and white is also typically a characteristic of the film noir genre, which I drew reference from as I was heavily inspired by works such as Nolan's Memento, The Twilight Zone, and films from the noir period in general while making my short film. This is further seen in my mix of mystery and drama, as well as the exaggerated perception of reality that's featured in my film. One final way that I followed art house conventions was in the distribution of my project by having it released in select theaters and festivals. I also followed short film and independent film conventions, and indie films tend to go hand in hand with art house, by having my film accessible on online platforms such as iTunes and Amazon, as well as having it for free on YouTube, seeing that a large percentage of my target audience are young adults who can't always afford to pay for their media. One way that I was able to engage audiences was by promoting them to support the film by donating money through sites like GoFundMe, and in exchange they can receive digital copies of the film and signed postcards by the cast and director. Another engaging technique I utilized was creating a teaser trailer of the short film and having it available on the film's site, as well as on the film's social media platforms, so that audiences are able to react to and share the promotional ad amongst themselves. One way that I was able to create an overall brand with my short film was by creating a cohesive, simple look with all of my products: the site, the film, and postcard. For all three, I used a black and white color scheme, which I was able to achieve in Adobe Premiere Pro, going under visual effects and choosing calculations to make every frame the right shade of black and white. And I utilized the same simple, bold fonts for all of them. I also used the same or similar images from the film on my postcard and on my site, so that audiences would be familiar with the content of the film. And lastly, as far as technology goes, I was able to use a DSLR camera along with my Rode Video Mic Go to record audio, a tripod to set up the composition, make sure the shot was stable, and a single light to produce my film. I used editing softwares like Adobe Premiere Pro, Adobe Audition to fix any audio issues, Wix the website creator, and Canva to piece together my products and ultimately create my cohesive brand. And as for the light, which I briefly discussed in my blog, but I was able to use a single light that I borrowed from my friend, and I simply took aluminum foil and I wrapped it around the light to work as a spotlight, to focus the light in on my shots, to light the shots better, and to ultimately make a better product. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed Obscura.